been getting into One Piece because I've been
happy and healthy.
So, God, the big guy above, he keeps putting ponies in my lap. So today, we are going to make This whole weird idea started off with me seeing this picture on Twitter. Yes, that is Sanji and Zoro in a My Little Pony comic, and if you squint, you can see Nami and Luffy in the background as well. Now, these are far from the only characters to ever have cameos in MLP, but I'm really into One Piece right now, so they're the only ones that matter to me, and I thought, what if I just made them? And that was all the motivation I needed. Unlike prior projects, I really didn't have a set design in mind, other than very, very loosely basing it off of the IDW designs. Let's start with giving them a haircut and cleaning off their eyes and existing cutie marks with acetone. Both of the dolls are unicorns, but I kind of figured Zoro would just be a regular horse. I mean, the horn is basically like a fourth sword, and that's basically cheating, so I decided to cut it off. No, don't do this. No. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, I filled in the gaping wound on his head with some epoxy putty and sanded it down when it was fully cured. The fun thing is, because the hole was too big, the epoxy putty just fell through, so now I don't know if you can see it. For the hair, I sort of roll out the putty and cut them and mold them into shape. Half-cured epoxy is really useful for stuff like fringes, where you kind of need it to hold its shape while it dries. Look at this! I think I got the shape of his hair really, really well, using a bunch of reference photos from anime One Piece and also live action. Zoro's hair. You've seen the beautiful bride, now get ready for the other screw! To improve on this monstrosity, I started to shape out Zoro's hairline with a sculpting tool, and add little spiky tufts of hair along the way. I know he usually has a sort of loosely swept back look, but to be honest, I was so worried that that was gonna make him even balder, so I didn't do that. Luckily, after filling out all of the spikes on his head and smoothing it out, it looks so much better. I also made their tails using some wire for structure. Zoro's tail has 3 tufts of hair at the top to represent his 3 swords, and Sanji's has a little curl in it to mirror his eyebrow. Now it's time to move on to the clothes. Zoro's was easy since he's just wearing a shirt, but Sanji's has all those layers, the shirt, the tie, the jacket, so I needed to be a little bit more careful, layering everything and cutting bits of it off with a craft knife. And with that, they're ready for sanding. I have the main shapes of the sculpture down, but they're really, really lumpy and really rough looking. Luckily, I have just the tools for the job. I have a few small files, which my partner's mom gave to me. First is this flat file, which is really good for a little bit more open, flatter areas. These 3-sided and 4-sided pointed files for detail work, and a rounded file for curves. Lastly, I have a huge working file that my dad gave me. After all that sanding, this is what we're left with. I really like how smooth it's become. I'm still a novice at hand sanding things, and at this point in time I didn't have a Dremel tool, but I do think I learned a lot in this process. primed the dolls by spraying them with a couple coats of acrylic gesso. Please don't question why I have "This is paint" written on there in all caps. I don't want to talk about it. Now, because I was using really cheap acrylic paint to color this, I had to do several coats. So unfortunately, I didn't record as much of the painting process as I wanted to because it took forever. But to give you the gist, I started off with some base coats and did kind of like a minute amount of detailing. For their cutie marks, I gave Sanji a little frying pan on fire. My thought process was to combine his cooking with Diable Jambe, but it just looks like he's destined to burn his food forever. And for Zoro, I did his 3 swords. And now it was time for the scariest part, to paint the faces. I didn't want them to have regular, huge, round MLP eyes, so I made them look a little different. Zoro has sort of almondish, dark brown eyes with his brows constantly furrowed. Sanji has downturned, lidded eyes because I like when he looks a little tired and sad. I think they're looking really good so far. But we're not quite done. We need to add just a couple of final touches. I made Sanji's cigarette and 3 little earrings for Zoro. Both of these are going to be fixed on with just a dab of super glue. And the very last thing I have to sculpt is Zoro's swords. Since their designs are based off of their pre-time skip appearances, I decided to go with his swords from pre-Enies Lobby. So Wado Ichimonji, Yubashiri, and Sandai Kitetsu. I start off by just making a basic katana shape, I don't know how else to say that, just a curved line, and cut off the last little section for the hilts. Thankfully, there is nothing a little super glue can't fix. At this point in time, I caved and bought a Dremel tool, so I drilled a couple holes into the swords and stuck in some wire for the handles. I also built the guards for the swords. I felt them down, drilled another hole through them, and I attached them on and covered the hilts with some more epoxy putty. Let's glue them on, and then we are done! I love doing really silly crafts like this. It brings me so much joy, and I learn something new every time I do it without fail. There's plenty of things I'm not too happy with the outcome of, like the streaky paint marks, or the fact that these guys are total dust magnets, but none of that matters, because I'm just really glad I made these. I hope you liked the video. Have a great day, and tell someone you love them. Bye bye!